afternoon, good afternoon. Just wave at me, please. Just wave, everybody, just wave. I want to see you're alive. Fabulous. Just say hi, Dave, please. Makes me feel good. Hi, Dave. That's lovely. Absolutely. My thing is going to be energetic. We're going to have a bit of energy in here, and I know I'm the only person stopping you from getting lunch. So I am going to bring as much energy as I can to this, and it's going to be interactive as well. Actually, let's start off with a bit of interaction. How many of you in here think you're good listeners? Who thinks you're a good listener, whether you're a teacher, student, whatever? You're a good listener. Some of you are embarrassed. Some of you are looking at me like, what did he just say? Okay, here's what we're going to do. Everybody put your right hand out in front of you like this. And for those of you who don't know what your right hand is, it's this one, okay? So your right hand, do your same with your left hand. Lovely, lovely. Raise your right hand up. Raise your left hand up. That's lovely. Smells wonderful in here. Keep it up, keep it up. Now what I want you to do is I want you to form a circle with your right hand, but keep shaking your left hand. Okay? Some of you look really confused, like this. Okay? Now what I want you to do without talking really slowly, and don't say anything, without talking really slowly, take your right hand really slowly, and I want you to put your right hand on your chin. Now how many have it on your cheek, even though I said your chin? Do this all the time with students, and some of you looked at me, I can see you, and you look, do this. He can't see me. Amazing, amazing exercise that we do whenever we go to schools and colleges. And the simple principle behind this is that people listen more to what you do than what you say. Some of you are like, let me just follow Dave, okay, whatever he says. But people listen more to what you do than what you say. And what I'd like to do is just give you a brief background as to why I am so passionate about leadership, not just for teachers, but specifically for students as well. So take notes, tweet, whatever you have to do, just don't fall asleep in the little bit of time that I have here. And I'm watching my clock. And as I teach people how to speak, and so I'm going to set myself a challenge that I'm actually going to finish before the clock goes down. Yeah. Okay, so here we go. Leading from the center. All you teachers in here, you are ninjas. If you've never been told that before, you've heard it from me now. You are a ninja. That's gone over some of your heads. Okay. And what that means is that a lot of times you have to work in stealth. You are leaders wherever you are in the whole scheme of school, whether you're senior, middle, in the classroom, you are all leaders because people are looking to you to see how you work under situations, to see how you cope under pressure. And I think leadership is so important. But I think it's important to also understand why leadership is important to me. So I'm going to see people who are around the same age as me in this room. Okay? I'll tell you my age in a little while. Who remembers this? Raise your hand if you remember that. Do not be in denial. Okay? For the youngers who have no idea who this is Evel Knievel. I had this toy. We would wound that thing up and it would just shoot through the kitchen or whatever room you had. And it was an amazing guy. He was a superstar guy from the 70s or 80s. And he used to go and fly through ramps and wheels of fire and break his bones and what have you. What I liked about him was that he was a daredevil. I love that. He was not afraid of taking risks. And that was one of the first things I learned about leadership. You should never be afraid to take risks, calculated risks, not stupid ones. You should never be afraid to take risks. And Evel Knievel was one of my heroes. Here's another person. How many of you know who this lady is? If you raise your hand if you know who this lady is. Okay? Some of you, again, it might be the older one. Some of you may. This Christine Gilbert, who used to be the head of Ofsted. Okay? But the context here is she used to be my headmistress. So now I can tell you my age. I'm 45. And yes, I know. Okay, all right. So Christine Gilbert was my headmistress. And why do I talk about her in leadership? Because there were a lot of things that she did in school, which she came into our school, Whitmore High School in Harrow. And she came into our school and she really revolutionized the way it was. I'm nothing to besmirch the previous head, but she came in and really revolutionized the school. And it was amazing, actually. There was one point, and I'm going to confess this. This is being filmed, isn't it? I'm going to confess it anyway. I was a perfect student. I was a teacher's pet. I always did well. But one day I lost my temper in school, and I hit somebody by accident. And my hand just kind of like went back. And I was terrified. There was two things. I was terrified because I was brought into the head's office, and they threatened to call my dad. I grew up in the 70s. And you didn't mess around with an African-Caribbean dad in the 70s. You still don't. She made the decision that based on my record, that I was allowed to leave school for 2 days to calm down, but I wouldn't be suspended, and it wouldn't be on my record. And I am forever grateful because it helped me to get into the college that I wanted to get into. And secondly, if she had suspended me, I think my dad would have deported me. And even though I am born in England, he would have still deported me. He would have found somewhere for me to go. So again, she's my second level of leadership. Here's my third one, Richard Branson. How many of you know who this guy is? Okay? Sir Richard Branson, one of my business heroes. I have two business heroes. One is Anita Roddick, who found the Body Shop. And my other one is Sir Richard Branson. And I had the opportunity, as you see there, to be able to meet him. I've met him more than once. I've interviewed him twice. I've been to his house. We've done some work together. But even in the short space of time where I've had conversations with him, I've learnt a heck of a lot about leadership and why it's so important, why it was important for him to develop and create his organizations and how we can learn that in education. So my speech, as I said, is called about leading from the center. And I'm going to ask you to do something. I'm going to ask you all, teachers or students, if you've got a brochure or a piece of paper, here's what I want you to do. I want you to write down 3 values that you hold dear to yourself. 3 values that you hold dear, things that are very important to you. I want you to write down on a piece of paper. You don't need to share it. If you don't want to write it down, you can put it on Twitter, hashtag. I'm David McQueen, by the way. You can follow me. Okay, all right. So you can put it down on Twitter, but 3 values that are really important to you. I want you to write down. I'm going to give you a couple of seconds to do that. I'm going to be 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, now whether you are a teacher or a student, what I want you to do is write beside that what you think the 3 values that are most important in your school. Write down what you think the 3 most important school values you have in your school or college. 3 most important. Okay, you have absolutely no idea the power you have up here telling people to write down on a piece of it. It feels really good, okay? Now, when you look at those values, there should be a match. There should be a match. Realistically, there should be a match. I always say this when I have the opportunity to talk to teachers and speaking in schools. There should never be a mismatch between your values and the values you have in an organization. For students as well, if they have strong values, they should be able to look. No one should have to write on a wall or on a mission statement or on a value statement what your values are. You should know that. It should be there. It should emanate from the environment you're in. And if there isn't one, you have to start asking your question, why is there a mismatch? I know if I've ever been in a job where the values of that organization don't match with mine, I no longer stay in that place. I have to move away. Unfortunately, I run my own business. Well, my wife runs my own business. I work with her. Let's keep it real. It's about making sure that those values match up. So let me give you a quick, brief background. I love doing leadership workshops in schools. I've had an opportunity because we've been I run a company called Magnificent Generation. We've been working with young people. Me personally, I've been working with young people for over 25 years in and out of school. And we formalized the company a number of years back to go in and start doing lessons for students. But we realized that one of the great things was being able to work with teachers. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to make sure that when I come into this education space, I know teachers take this stuff really seriously. And I didn't want to be that kind of person that would just stand on a stage and get populist attention without having some real research behind me. I wanted to make sure that when I give that data, it was clear and it was obvious and it was not just about getting popularity. It had to be clear. It had to be clear. And I saw individuals like this, and I'm going to be quite clear. Individuals like Sir Ken Robinson, admire him for what he's done. But it annoyed me when I see individuals like him who have given a platform criticizing stuff that hasn't happened in school when you haven't been in a school. And so I made sure that when us as individuals, when we go into school, we know we have the conversations rather than assuming, because every single school is different. And so these are some of the companies that I had an opportunity of working with around the country and doing leadership workshops and doing leadership coaching. These are an array of companies that I worked with. And I wanted to take some of that stuff out and bring it into schools and see how we can learn how to make change for self-leadership, how we could do stuff around your team, and how we could shape stuff around organizational leadership. And so we use that, and over the last number of years, we've been working with some fantastic teaching teams. We've been doing stuff at Teach Meets, and we've been being able to share some of our stuff and the learning that we get from every single school. Now, what we realize, and this is so important, every school is different, but it's about the learning. What can we learn from each other that will help us to improve and help our students to be the best, not only pupils, but citizens in the present and for the future as well? So here's a little exercise I want to give you. As I said, it's going to be interactive. I'm going to make this really quick. How many faces can you see on the screen? I don't mind if you shout at me. It's not school. You can do what you want. How many faces do you see? How many see 5? Put your hand up. How many see 6? 7? 8? 9? Some of you just see faces all the time anyway, don't you? 10? 11? They're 12. There are 12 faces up there. I wish I had a pointy thing, but I'll quickly try and do it. So if you look up there, can you see the crow's face? So that's one. Underneath, behind him, can you see a face, which is 2 eyes and a face, you think? Can you see that? Underneath the crow, if you look down where the post is, can you see the chin, the mouth, and the nose, which makes another face? Can you see it there? No? Okay. Try on the other side of the column. Can you see it up there? There's 2 faces facing each other underneath the crow. Can you see that? Can you see your face here? Who missed that one? Who saw 3 up here? Who saw the face in the corner? Who saw the face where the eye is just underneath the crow's beak? Ah. Some of you are still looking like, what? I still don't see any faces. We've used this exercise so many times with both students and teachers to get them to understand that sometimes we may not see everything. We might see the bigger picture, but sometimes it takes leadership in order for somebody else to be able to drill down and help you see the detail. And we've realized that one of the best ways for students to really understand how powerful leadership can be in a school is to learn by observing teachers. It's to see leadership in action. Because we can talk about it all we want, but it's so important for them to be able to observe that. And part of our process when we go into schools is we talk to senior management teams, we talk to middle leaders, we talk to students, and we create a conversation. Because for us, the conversation is important. It's not about assumption. It's about being able to have that conversation to see what results we can get out of it. So let me jump to the student leadership part. Can you see a guy in the back with the orange tie? Good looking, isn't he? All right. I remember when I was going to Downing Street and I had to go there. This was just after the riots, and I was part of a delegation talking about student leadership. And my mum said, listen, they're going to take a picture. Make sure I can see you. So I wore that tie, just so that you know, just to make my mum proud, okay? But we had an opportunity, as I said, just after the riots to go to 10 Downing Street, and it drove home to me even more that whilst we were talking to teachers about leadership, what can we do to really empower young people, students, to realize that they can take the handle? And I'll be really honest with you, and students, you may not like me for this, but I'm going to tell you anyway. I'm not one of those people that thinks that students should set the agenda. I'm not one of those people that thinks that students should go and set the timetable. Can they be a contributing part? By all means, definitely. But I'm not one of those people that will, and I know it's going to be in contradiction of one of the other speakers that you're going to hear on the conference, but I don't care. I'll say it as it is. This is what you see. If you don't like it, build a bridge and get over it. My thing is this, is that I believe that the teaching profession is very, very important. You go where you study, you learn different arts of pedagogy, and you learn different things all the time, and you're getting it thrown at you left, right, and center. Growth mindset, balanced scorecard, let's leave brain gym. You get all these things thrown at you, and it's about how do you make those decisions? How do you stay rational? How do you make the things that are going to be best for your organization, and how can we impart those to students as well? So whilst I was on my journey, I had a fantastic opportunity to work with organizations like, and by the way, if you think I'm name dropping, I just want to give you validation because I know it's very hard to convince teachers. So it's not name dropping, it's me giving me social proof and validation, okay? So working with Young Mensa, A brilliant organization. I wasn't good to get in, but they invited me to come and speak, which made me feel really good. The Jack Petrie Foundation, we've worked with a lot of people across London, helping young people to be able to present. UK Youth, Young Enterprise Prospects around careers, Nifty. And I realized that every single one of these organizations, at the heart, what they wanted to do was to empower young people to be able to make decisions. Empower young people to be able to take what they do to the next level. And I thought, how could we then, as an organization, pull in all the information that we've had from the corporate world, from the BBC, BP, Shell, Channel 4, all the rest of that. How can we also pull the information in that we've had from these organizations that work with schools and put that together to get young people to realize how powerful they can be as student leaders? And with the best intentions of the world, we want our kids to be smart. I'm just letting that sink in a bit, okay? We want our kids to be smart. We want them, some of you are still confused as to what the picture is. It's all right, I'll explain to you later. We want them to be smart. We want them to use the subject matter that we have. We want them to be smart like this. So how do we go about that process? And I will spend the last 10 minutes just trying to do that because I'm going to finish early and explain to you what we have done. So we know that there's an array of student leadership programs that can be done in schools. And you're going to get it from all different angles. You're going to get STEM programs, you're going to get speaking programs, sports leadership programs, so many. But at the core, and I'm using as a TED fan myself, I'm using the speech. Simon Sinek has a speech about leadership. Start with a why. Why are we doing this? Why do we want students to be leaders? Why do we want to empower them to be prefects or to be peer mentors or be part of a student voice or be part of a community challenge? And the reason is that it gives them a head start. Now, I'm very fortunate in that I am able, as a father of two beautiful daughters and a very beautiful wife who's sitting in the audience here, who's very lucky to have me, and I'm incredibly lucky to have her. We have had the opportunity to experience both independent and state schools. So our youngest goes to a girls' grammar in St. Albans, and our eldest went to Aldenham School in Elstree in Hertfordshire. And one of the things that really struck me, sorry, my laces are undone, my wife's going to kill me. One of the things that really struck me about the independent school that my daughter went to was when we went to the first, what was called the visitation day, the first day that they had where all the students could meet with the alumni and there were great speeches. As a guy stood up on a stage and he said, "You are all leaders. Whether you like it or not, you are all leaders, and you are here in the school, and you are going to be shaped for future leadership." And it really struck a chord in my heart, because I know that, especially when you start to think of some of the Russell Group universities and some of the opportunities that come for students who come from independent schools, that mindset has already been beset in them. Now, for me, that doesn't mean in any way that that doesn't happen in state schools, because I know I work in enough and that happens, but it was almost like an automatic assumption. And I felt in my heart, well, this is something that has to also happen when we're doing our work, when we're working in state schools, which is the majority of our work. I wanted to encourage all young people, wherever they are, that you are all leaders. It doesn't necessarily mean you're always going to be an organizational leader, but you can be a team leader. You can be an organization leader, but most importantly, you need to be able to lead yourself. And so we took these programs. We run a number of prefects programs around the country. And at the heart of it, we want to get students to realize about being able to manage the power that they have, but learn from others as well. Have that dialogue. One of the funniest things I have whenever we've done student voice is students think that, now we're on student voice, we can change the school. No, you can't. What you can do is, yes, you can influence policy. Yes, you can have a conversation with your heads, and yes, you can learn about debate and learn about dialogue, but it's learning about going on that process, going on that journey, and making sure that you know how to make decisions, you know how to deal with conflict, you know how to solve problems. But not only are you learning from each other, but you are learning from the teachers who are already in place. We're working with we've run a pilot with a school in South London, Evening Grace Academy, and we've been working with 25 of they're now year 11 students, to really build up some strong, solid data as to how and why leadership amongst young people will work. And there's a lot of stuff that we've already started to pull out from it. The people who are in a position of leadership feel a sense of responsibility. And what they can do is they can have a conversation with their peers, and they can encourage young people to study. They can encourage young people to be proud about who they are, not only within the school, but within the wider community. Sometimes it's about them driving anti-bullying campaigns and helping and making sure that people who are younger than them, who will look up to them, they will listen to them more, first and foremost, before they can even talk to the teachers. We've run a number of sessions around conflict and conflict management. And we found that a lot of students, when they're given those tools, they can make that intervention long before us as adults, before we actually get there. And so we're pulling all that information together and realizing that if you give these students an opportunity, and if you give the students a chance to learn like how we had to learn, it just rubs off. And it can't be done in isolation. It cannot be just done as a project or a tick list or a way of being able to spend the pupil premium or another way of being able to look good when Ofsted comes around. And we are still learning. And we are still learning from you. And it's an amazing opportunity, and it's an amazing time to be, an amazing time and a space to be here, learning how this can work. It's an amazing opportunity to learn how students can impact the direction that the school can go. So I want to set you a challenge. I love you when you leave here and go back to your schools, and you stop a student and ask a student, do they know what the values of the school are, without having to see something up on a sign or in a board or repeat it to them in assembly? What are the things that make them believe that they are part of this community? And we will come from varying and very different schools. We all have our own stories in our schools. But how will we develop that so that it works for us and it's a reflection of what we have as well, our value system? Because I honestly think, yes, it's great to have the signs up, but imagine if people know what this stuff is or know what the values is because it's placed in their heart. They see it around them. There's that ethos. They know it's not just words, but this is a way that the school actually operates. And I really want you to take that away from here, that wherever you are in your school, no matter who comes in to lead the school at a senior level or a middle level, if the values are the same, there should be nothing to worry about. I know, and over this last year, a lot of teachers have said to me, and this is so powerful, and for those of you who follow me on Twitter, you know I'm a big mouth there as well. I love it when teachers say to me, we teach and we have an environment in our school that's outstanding for our school and not for Ofsted. That's not a slight on Ofsted, but I love it that within the school, the value system says this is about us. This is about the children. This is about our community. This is about us as teachers, where we can be able to talk to each other and take it to the next level. Now, I'm going to finish off on two quick things. How many of you would come up here and do what I'm doing now? Who would come up on the stage if you had to and you come and do this now? Teachers in the room. Okay, so a few of you would do it. What's the worst that could happen if you came up here on the stage to speak? Your shoelaces could get undone. I like you. That's not the worst. What's the worst that could happen? Freeze. The worst that could happen is that you die. Here's the good news. If you die, you don't have to give the speech because you're dead. But a lot of people, and I found this, and we'll be talking about this later when they teach me, a lot of people have been afraid, and I know a lot of teachers wouldn't come and speak in front of their peers, and they wouldn't come and speak in a staff room, or they wouldn't come and do stuff like this in a conference. But I will challenge you, step outside that comfort zone, because sometimes having that example is all that we need to give a young person to show that they can have the confidence as well. I know some of you are looking at me and shaking your head saying, hell no, that's never going to happen, but just try it. Just try it. And I'm going to go off script just before I go, and I'm going to give you one last tip. How many of you in here don't like networking? Who doesn't like networking? Be honest with me. You don't like networking, having to go out there and... Okay, so let me give you some tips before we go here. And I'm going to go off the... Oh, I finished early. Here we go. When you go outside, how many of you have ever had... You've been in an awkward conversation, you don't know how to leave an awkward conversation? Okay, so here's my tip. Are you ready for this? It was nice to meet you. Take care. That's it. It was nice to meet you. Take care. No one is going to die if you leave them in the middle of the conversation. They're not going to go home and paint their room black and start listening to weird music, okay? unless they do that all the time. What is important is just be able to leave. Here's the other thing I'm going to say to you as well. When you go to shake hands, go and grab a hand and shake twice. So, hello. Don't count. That's weird, okay? just go and shake their hand, okay, and have the conversation. There are many people out here who want to be able to share some fantastic stuff about you, and I thank you for being an absolutely attentive crowd. But I want you to take away this. You are the best example of leadership that a student will ever see. So raise your game so they raise their game, because you're worth it. Thank you very much.